Welcome to the Success in Africa podcast with Dr. Modupe, your weekly dose of leadership vitamins to make you successful in Africa.
Hello and welcome to the Success in Africa podcast episode 30. My name is Dr. Modupe Taylor Pierce, and I am a scholar and practitioner of leadership and organizational development. Simply put, I study what makes people successful. I have been studying this for 3 decades with a particular focus on people in Africa. And in this podcast, I will share stories, lessons, and insights about people having success in Africa. Why? Because I am sick and tired of Africa being the poorest continent in the world. We are blessed with the greatest resource, young people. Africa will soon have the largest number of working age people in the world. And when these people achieve success, watch out. Africa's wealth will be unparalleled. If you want to see proof of that, just take a look at what is happening in Kenya with the Gen Zs and how they are changing governance and the face of government in Kenya. You see, I don't know of too many Africans whose goal in life it is to die poor. Success in life is simply the achievement of a predetermined goal, whether that goal is turning your country into a highly efficient, non-corrupt country, or creating employment for 1,000 people. This podcast has been created to help you to achieve it. So if you are serious about achieving success in Africa, I want you to subscribe to this channel. If you like the video after you have watched it, please click the like button. This podcast is brought to you courtesy of BCA Leadership, the largest leadership enhancement company in Africa. If you have questions that you want me to answer after watching this video, just log on to BCA Online, the link is on the screen, and post your questions there. That is where I will respond to your questions. Today is the final part of the 4-part series we are having on governance. Over the past 3 weeks, we have learned that good governance matters, and it is needed for every company or organization, no matter how young that company is, to succeed. You see, governance is simply the system by which an organization is controlled and operates, and the mechanism by which it and its people are held to account. A key part of this system is a group of people who collectively provide advice, accountability, credibility, and support for the organization. This group of people are collectively called the board or the board of directors. We have also learned that positive relationships between the CEO and individual board members are gold, and they are built outside of the boardroom, and they are critical to a CEO's ability to get the most out of his or her board. We also learn that shareholders need to ask for, prepare for, and participate in their company's annual general meetings to get the most value out of their board. These are just a few of the nuggets that people have gotten from episodes 27, 28, and 29, which were illustrated by lessons learned from the experiences of Dr. Thompson Binganjira of Malawi, Mr. Wilben Short of the Gambia, and Ms. Catherine Musakali of Kenya. Today, I'm not sure what I'm more excited about, the topic or the person whose story will illustrate the points in this topic. See, the topic is best practices for board of directors. And in today's podcast, we are going to learn a few best practices that every board should adopt in order to give the company the greatest opportunity for success. The person whose journey illustrates these best practices is a remarkable lady from Zambia named Charity Chandra Lumpa. Charity Lumpa is a corporate governance expert. She has not only served on the boards of several organizations, frankly, we could say that of many Africans. However, there are only a few Africans that I can say that whenever they serve on the board of an organization, that organization or company experiences a turnaround or an acceleration in its growth, both top line and bottom line. This is a record that Charity Lumpa holds. From public sector to private sector, from for-profit to not-for-profit, Charity Lumpa has done it all. She has held non-executive directorship positions, and she has turned around the companies while in those positions. And her track record is not by accident. She has been intentional about learning how to leverage good governance for organizational success. Charity was born and raised in Zambia. Her idyllic childhood was traumatically hijacked at age 11 when she lost her mom to a tragic accident and her dad to even more tragic circumstances. She grew up with her grandmother, and her younger siblings were split apart to live with relatives. As the firstborn daughter, she had to take charge to keep the family together. She learned at an early age that in life, if she wanted anything, she would have to go and get it. Nobody was going to give it to her. Her late mother was the first female director of a family planning association in Zambia, and Charity was fascinated with how she looked, how she traveled the world. And young Charity decided she wanted to become part of the corporate world. She worked very hard in university to get a degree, and after she got her first job in the corporate sphere, she made a plan to become an MD of a corporation in her 40s. That was her goal. So she researched what managing directors know and their skills, and she found out one interesting thing, that they need to know corporate governance. So she became curious about corporate governance. She joined the board as a volunteer. The board was for a company called Global Compact. She was quite young, and she just sat there learning. She would listen, she would learn, and she realized that this is the way that companies should be run and the way that the whole world should be run. Are you hearing me, Gen Zs all over Africa? As she became more senior in her job, she started to become an executive, and she started to sit on boards. She started learning about governance on her own. The biggest learning experience she had when she joined the banks as a board chair, and she received formal training, and she learned a lot. As a non-executive director of a bank, she went through a comprehensive training to shore up her knowledge. Charity recalls one of her experiences that made her passionate about the value of boards. It was when she was appointed the managing director of the Zambia National Tourism Agency. There wasn't a board of directors at the start, and the agency worked very closely with the ministry. To her surprise, when a board was finally set up, these board members, who were largely untrained, thought they were responsible for management. She had to organize training in governance for them through the Institute of Directors so that they would learn the separation between management and governance, or management and the board. And in the initial stages, it made for a very difficult relationship between the management and the board. You see, that's where she realized that when we get it wrong at board level, the company suffers and things will go really badly wrong. So Charity offered me 7 best practices for boards of directors, and I'm going to share them with you. Here they are. Number 1, every board should have a board charter, and every board member should be familiar with it. A board charter is like a terms of reference for the board. It dictates how the board governs and spells out the areas of operational ability of the board. This is fundamental. Every board should have a charter. Every board member should be familiar with it. Number 2, the chair of the board must know that he or she is just one among equals. She cannot lord it over others. The role is so critical, and it is a coordination role. As a board chair, you are bound by collective responsibility. So, for example, when the majority agrees on something, regardless of your personal opinion, you as the chair must go with the collective decision. Number 3, communication should be clear among board members. Every board member needs to know what every other board member knows. If you do not do this, you can create cartels and make poor collective decisions. You see, one of the key assets of board decision making is the value of collective decisions rather than individual decisions. When the collective does not have access to all the information, their decisions may be suboptimal. Number 4, boards must ensure that they are evaluating themselves. Board evaluations are very important. You see, boards must evaluate their performance, whether that is done by the board itself or an external evaluator, but a board must ensure that there is an evaluation process that goes on so that they can receive and assess how they are performing. At a very basic level, they must have in place some KPIs that they can use to objectively evaluate their performance. Otherwise, the board can just keep on doing things that are wrong, that are suboptimal, and never be able to make course corrections. Number 5, subcommittees. Very important for boards. See, boards should have subcommittees to focus on specific areas that are critical to the company and to support the CEO and the management team. Subcommittees also allow for board meetings to be more efficient because they can focus and spend time on specific areas and then report to the board for more efficient decision making. Number 6, every board member should know that she or he represents the organization and takes decisions for the good of the entire organization, not just for the interest of any particular shareholder. As a board member, you are part of a collective. Number 7, it is important to have diversity in your board, diversity of skills and backgrounds, so that it can make wise collective decisions. Charity Lumpa joined the board of BCA Leadership in 2020 at a time when the organization was in an early growth stage and in need of governance. Under her leadership, the board of directors provided governance of the company to make critical decisions that steered it successfully through the COVID-19 crisis, a crisis that represented an existential threat to BCA leadership. Today, BCA leadership has grown, despite COVID, to one of Africa's largest leadership enhancement organizations. And that growth is due in large part to good governance decisions taken with Charity on the board. Her impact on Africa has already been felt with the impact she has had on BCA leadership, on Zanaco, on EcoBank, SOS Children's Villages, just to name a few of the organizations that she has supported with her leadership and drive. I am personally grateful to Charity for being a successful African and impacting BCA leadership with success. She is an African who continues to work for Africa. Thank you, Charity. This brings us to the end of our podcast today. I thank you for listening or watching. I hope you've learned something useful from today's podcast. Next week, we're going to start a new series on how to build your organization by finding the ideal employees. It's a 5-part series called The 5 C's of a Great Employee. If you plan on creating a legacy in Africa, you will have to be able to identify ideal employees to help you get it done. And the next 5 weeks will be part of that journey to help you get there. We will explore the 5 characteristics of such great employees. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and like this video. Tell your friends about it. Together, we can transform our beloved continent of Africa. See you next week.
Tomorrow belongs to those people who prepare for it today. See you next week.